So, whenever we come on here, I'm interviewing Judy Kim today, who's a very interesting author who has some amazing things to say about an event that happened in her life. But first, I just want to explain when we come on here, we're laughing. It's because the pre show is a lot of fun. Someday I'm just going to start recording the pre show because that's usually where we just are chatting. So, we're going to try to continue that energy. We're going to break the curse of I press record and we suddenly get serious, and we're just going to keep having fun. So, I'm going to talk to Judy Kim today. And I am blanking today because I have not had my coffee yet. What is the book? It's a great title, and I was like, I will of course remember the title, so I don't need to write it down. And then my brain died.
No, you're okay. It's a long title. Well, so it's called Super Survivor, and it is. Should I show you a copy?
You can absolutely show us a copy. But
Actually, if I do that, I'm going to wake up Tucker. So
we also have a Muppet on. We have my
should we?
Labrador, and we've got the cutest
Okay.
Muppet here.
Hi guys, this is Tucker.
If you're listening, you
Now
can head
that
over
I've
to
woken him
YouTube.
up, I'm going to grab the book.
You can head over to YouTube and watch and see how cute Tucker is, because Tucker is absolutely a Jim Henson creation. And
Guys,
that's a gorgeous
there
cover
we
too. Super
go. Thank you
Survivor.
so much.
There's something that reminds me about the Stephen Hawking book cover, like of like that like individual standing at a great unknowable. And that feels a lot like what you experienced. You were an individual who stood in front of a great unknowable.
Yes, there. So the idea for the book cover came from this piece of artwork that I created when I was in art therapy. And it is I called the stroke a wave. And it's basically like a huge wave of, from the ocean coming in, and it crashes over you and it just sweeps you from one spot to another. And it's destructive, it's beautiful, it's, all sorts of things. And so I had created that with my left side and my right side, a photo of which, so the right side will be vibrant as it appears, but then the left side's the one taken out. So there's all the shadow on the left. And so it was, yeah, it was just like the image of that inspired it. So
That is fascinating. I'm like obsessed with the whole. I was looking at going, wow, this is really
thank you.
interesting. Like that space coming in at you. That's so powerful. But the idea of like the vibrancy and the not. Let's go into the physicality real quick of a stroke, because I
Sure.
think I don't know. I'm speaking for myself. I'm saying everyone seems to. I don't know if everyone seems to. I personally am very curious what it physically feels like, because I feel like we get like a lot of like, doctors saying it feels like this. I'm like, have you had a stroke, sir? Are you sure? And then all the medical stuff that the doctors are telling you are only discussed by male bodies. And I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume, but I am an ovary owner. I think you might be as well. And when it comes to, I own them.
Oh, a couple. I kept them after.
I call it Shark Week. They look like a shark brain. It's very cute. They're my accessories. I carry with them everywhere, even if I don't want to. The point being is that in the medical community, we're just going to be cracking up. If you're annoyed by my laugh, this might not be your episode. We were having way too much fun.
No, mine too.
You would not believe the comments I get on this podcast. I'm like, wow, thanks for like giving me a nice thick skin. A laugh that gives you a migraine. I'm so
Oof.
not sorry. Point being
I
that
might be starting one myself.
You get honestly like being in the public in any way, shape, or form has to be the most healing experience, because what you think would absolutely devastate and destroy you becomes something that's funny. And it's
Yeah.
truly healing. And if having to raise two teenagers did not get me to that point, being out in the public with public comments available certainly got me there.
Oh my gosh. I've actually been inspired by, or at least just taken these comments really to heart. Like, but thankfully, I've gotten really, really, really nice ones so far.
Well, you can take those to heart.
Yeah.
Everything requires energy to start, right? Getting off the bed requires energy. Starting a new point in your life requires energy. And whether it's positive or negative, those comments can become fuel to lift you forward. So whatever is lifting you forward, take it. Whatever is taking you back, find it funny. But when I'm asking about the physicality of the stroke, it's because almost everything we know about medical science is from the male body. The female body is just almost not studied at all, if only a little bit. So when doctors are like, if you're a woman, you might experience these from a stroke. I'm like, will I? Will I? Tell me why. Tell me how you know that. So I'm asking another person who has the double balloons with them all the time. what does this actually feel like? And I'm not saying, by the way, this is not medical advice, everyone. We are not doctors. Neither one of us
Yes.
is a medical
Yes.
professional. We're just talking about personal experience.
Mm,
Don't sue me. I have no
absolutely.
money. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I see that all the time. I experienced a stroke, but I am not an expert. I've only had one,
Yeah,
people.
but that one was very
Okay, so so actually my stroke doctor at McGee was a female. So yeah, yeah. Now I never asked her whether she had one. I don't think she did, but she, yeah, she was pretty phenomenal. So now going back to the stroke itself, gosh, ooh, what I call it, and I think what a lot of stroke survivors call it, is the worst headache you've ever had, like the absolute worst. And I've had mini strokes from the age of 4 because of what is called moya moya syndrome. And so it's this disease where your internal carotids keep progressively shrinking. And if your brain doesn't get enough blood, then it forms these collateral vessels, which have really thin walls. And especially if you have that and high blood pressure, they'll break. And that's what happened with me. I had high blood pressure. I was probably overdoing it, and my vessels cracked and it flooded. And yeah, so the pain was crazy bad. That really, really, really awful headache. I had experienced numbness, which I, had, the TIA, or the, sorry, transient ischemic attack, is the mini stroke is very similar to a stroke. It's, but it can be a precursor. It also, is, it can have some of the same symptoms. I'll just say that, and then we'll just go back to this stroke. The stroke had caused, numbness and tingling, and then paralysis on my left side. So my arm on my left my bone fell out of my shoulder socket because it had, been paralyzed. And then also on my left side, my left foot, it experienced drop foot. So I wasn't able to walk for a while, for a couple of months actually, but it felt like forever when it was happening. And basically the signals between your brain and your limbs really don't, link up as quickly as they used to. And I also had what was called left side neglect. So I did not know that stuff, I couldn't realize that stuff on the left side existed. Like I would see a sheet of paper, and if they gave me a puzzle to do, like, or an exercise to do, circle all these, the entire left side of the sheet was not filled out because I didn't see it at all. Or I thought at one point they had my arm in a wheelchair, in an extension of the wheelchair. And I was about to curse someone out for being in my personal space. And it was my arm. My I said, how is this possible? It is shaking up. I didn't think I would get emotional.
we
It
get a lot of emotions here. All of them.
it but I thought, how in the world is this possible? How is this my new reality? How am I going to function without being able to function? Like, and without knowing what's going to happen next? How am I, like, if my brain is fooling me into telling me that this arm that's been a part of my body for the last 39 years, then how am I supposed to work? How, or not work, work too, but how am I supposed to work? And that was really, really scary. And, I lost control of bodily functions, wetting bed. But I know that meanwhile, this is the effects of the stroke. But during the stroke itself, gosh, it was just so dark. It felt like it was nighttime the whole time. The massive pain, I was constantly nauseous because even when I had TIAs, I would, there's my pup. He's saying hi again.
He's upset. He's having a moment. It's okay. Support Dr. emotions.
Nope, not Tucker. So, whew, distracting there. Sorry guys. So, one of the side effects of a stroke is that you lose your train of thought and that you lose some cognition. That's what happened. And so it happens to this day. But
Podcast, we support that. And the reason I support that, and the reason it's not going to get edited out, is because a lot of us are starting over. If you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to it either because someone you love is experiencing something, or you're experiencing a situation where you have to start over again and it's not going to look perfect. And I don't want you to
absolutely.
wait until it's perfect to try something. So we keep these things in just because we want you to know we're okay with it not being
Mm.
perfect. So you should at least try not to be so judgmental of yourself.
And for me, it's been, I just experienced my seventh anniversary of the stroke.
Did you do
So
something? Please tell me you did something.
went out to dinner, like, just, but it was amazing because in past years, I had just been focused on either the recovery or the hey, look at how much I've accomplished. I said, ooh, yay, went back to work. Ooh, yay, I did this. Ooh, I got promoted. This is how exciting is this? Don't get me wrong, all of that was exciting. But when this year I released this book, and I went public, like you were saying, putting the public facing front out there. And gosh, I didn't even tell my neighbors that I had a stroke. We moved to this condo in the city, and it's so much easier for the medical appointments, for, not having steps, and I can do them now. But 6 years ago, I was not doing them. I could not say, hey, let's commit
Wait a minute,
ourselves to
this was
this
right at the beginning
house.
of COVID.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh my God, I just put that together. Like, wow, this is like such a stressful experience you're having. Put it together in my head. You were like this, you like, I'm lucky enough that I was born with all these genetic defects, and I've been a frog in hot water my whole life. So everything's just like, oh, okay. Oh, that's new. Cool. But people who have like sudden like ripping apart of their lives is like insanely shocking to me. And I cannot imagine what you are going through. And then you add on to you, I think we're married at the time you had the stroke, and COVID's
Mm-hmm.
going on. So
Mm-hmm.
getting your husband to those
Yeah,
appointments
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
um,
Oh, we're
making everything
still.
1,000 times more difficult.
Well, you know what? It's funny because I hear that a lot more now in retrospect. After I've shared my story with so many people, they're like, oh, and COVID, oh my God, you're so lucky that you didn't actually have your stroke and were in rehab during COVID, because you would be completely isolated. You would have no one able to visit you, all of these things. And I am so grateful that that didn't happen. Although I can't say that I made it unscathed, right? Because it's funny, like I had the stroke, I had to adjust to everything. And then it's like, oh, this is your new normal, Judy. And then it was like, oh, and COVID, guess what? Here, let's put that icing on the cake. And but aside from that, fortunately, and I've knock on wood, I have not tested positive yet, ever.
I'm so jealous.
But I suspect that it's also because I found out after the stroke that I also have EDS. So after, I think, gift and a curse, right? So I think, and I have POTS, and all of these symptoms that other people are experiencing after COVID, I happen to have before COVID. So, but I don't know if it's some sort of protective germ, or protective genetic disorder, but it just doesn't, you know.
No, because I have EDS and I absolutely got COVID and dislocated all my ribs from the coughing. It was like Alien movie when like the ribs open up. Yeah, it was not fun. I do not recommend. 0 out of 5 stars.
My ribs on my left side stick out. They protrude because of the spasticity. Fortunately, they haven't been dislocating, but other things definitely dislocate like all the time.
I
Like
just
my
started
ankle
using the
just
rib machine.
like
Oh my God,
all
yes.
the, that was like
I
the,
could show you
yeah.
pictures. That's so I send them to my physical therapist just to like go, "Hey, guess what you have to deal with." I'm not a fun person to have around. I swear. I'm fun for like a half hour, and then like people who have to be in my life all the time are like, "Oh God, stop."
No. Well, so that's part of what I am trying to accomplish with the book, actually. Um, yeah, not to get too serious, but
We're gonna go back and forth a lot.
I'm totally
Totally
joking.
fine.
The part of it is trying to create an awareness about invisible illnesses
Mm.
and about how much you can't assume anything about anyone. You can't. I mean, it's not even the people who suffer, they don't say a word. Times, a lot of the times, they don't say a word. At least with me with a stroke, again, didn't tell my neighbors, didn't tell anybody else at work except the people who needed to know. I kept it private. Um, in this case, so part of the reason why I came out into the public is because there were so many people that I had spoken to, other patients, etc., that couldn't verbalize what it is that they were going through, whether it was to their doctors, to their friends, to their family. And for me, everyone thought that I looked completely normal, or they still do, right? I mean, there's nothing, whoo, I mean, I couldn't move my hand at some point, but right now you can't tell that. You can't tell that, well, you don't see the facial droop right now because I'm not as tired, but it had been there at one point. All the things, and like a little bit of lazy eye. That's the one thing that really kind of hangs out when I'm tired, and I'm like, darn it, you know.
I
I'm
think
like,
how exhaustion really like adds to the symptom list. Like, it's
yeah,
something that I don't think people understand. I think there's a lot of like, oh, you're a woman, you're stressed. Calm down. Don't work so hard. It's a new version of
thankfully,
hysterical. And when we get tired, though, I think like there's a massive intake words. There's a massive uptick in our symptoms in ways that we don't necessarily.
oh my gosh, and they're so uncontrollable. It's not like it's not like with fatigue, this sort of fatigue that you can just lay down and say, I'm just going to chill out. Oh, hey, I'll just watch a little bit of Netflix and hang out. No, there's none of that. There is laying down, and there is uncontrollably not moving anywhere. It is forcibly not moving anywhere because your body has taken you hostage and it's saying, no, you've overdone it, or we don't like you right now, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sorry. Like, you absolutely have to shut down.
You get the experience of people in your life, especially the people who used to be in your life pre this, who get jealous of the time you have now.
Do they get jealous of my
I
time?
I get the experience of people who used to be in my life when I was working 80 hours a week who are like, "Oh my god, you have so much free time now." I'm like, "Oh my god, you have no fucking clue." Like, holy shit, do you understand what my life is? Like,
That deserves murder. I am sorry. I know we just put this on tape. Please don't come after me,
Silicon Valley
police
is
or
where I used to
anything.
be. So
But
I was in the Silicon Valley. That was my work life, was in that world.
yeah,
Go 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 go. 80 hours a week, nothing. 80 hours a week was nothing. Yeah, that
yeah.
those people from that world have very interesting ideas
I used to
about what
work
my
for
life is now.
I used to work for Deloitte. And so my know what that whole 90-hour a week thing was like, and I still push. And it's still one of my, like, oh, yeah, I can do this. And I refuse to accept that I couldn't work anymore. So I think that in pushing further and further, I was able to accomplish what I have. But at the same time, my vascular neurologist will say to me, you do have to watch it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, but if I didn't push, then. And he's like, yeah, but, And so yeah, I fly to Columbus, I'll, fly to Dallas. And there are these times where I see people and everyone is like, they had no idea. And they're like, well, hang on. Why can't, what, wait. And they don't, fortunately, I don't make enough mistakes that they see it frequently, and so they're like, okay, and I feel terrible about whatever mistakes I make. But they had no idea. And so they're like, she is just slacking. Like, what the heck? And I'm like, yeah, I'm slacking. I'm just balancing a few too many things at one time, but also, So I'm trying to make people aware of what it's truly like because, like you said, if even people who know you, who've seen you forever, who have said, who know what happened, they're still like, ah, we're out to lunch, we're fine. Like, ah, yeah, come to this family party, come to that. And they,
Yesterday, you did it last week.
yeah,
Why?
yeah, exactly. It's like, and they, oh, sorry about Tucker. They do not know about spoons. They do not understand
Dogs
it
have no
at all.
understanding, none.
Yeah, yeah.
My puppy gets so concerned about, like, why aren't you moving, woman? Like, you're supposed to be playing with me right now. You had talked to, like, I just wanted to go back a little bit, and if this is too rough, just we'll switch up topics. But you had been talking about your recovery and like this arm that is a part of you. And like I feel like there's also the sense of betrayal of the body. Like it's like we're like
Yes.
C.S. Lewis said, we own a body. Like we are not our body. We own it. We sit in it. We live in it. It's kind of like an avatar.
I feel like
And
we're
like
only renting it, but
yeah, renting it like Annie DeFranco in between some times between my mom and some maggots. Like yes, I love Annie. But sorry, Gen X, what can I say? This idea of like there's this limb, it's a part of you, you grew it, and it's not obeying you, it's just there. It's to the point where it's almost disassociative.
mhm,
Then you're also at this point where you need help for everything, including like personal things. This
mhm.
seems like a loss of autonomy down to being a newborn.
Oof. I might not go that far.
That's fair. I'm only speaking from what
Like,
I'm
oh,
hearing. I have
yeah,
not
no,
experienced
no.
this, but I'm curious how you go from an intense lack of autonomy to a point where you're like, I don't know this arm. And then how do you decide to take the amount of energy it would take to go from, I don't know this arm, I don't know this body right now, but I'm going to fight for whatever I can, or I'm going to work towards whatever I can get back to. And I'm wondering what that energy was, what that push off was, and how you, because like I know this is like a journey, so you're going to have a
Yeah.
whole lot of points where you're like, I don't want to anymore, this is fine, I'm done. Like what is the things that you go back to without like inspiration porn that kept you,
Oh, no, 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 I'm not.
because I think we
Woohoo,
both have a
sunshine
severe
babies.
hatred of inspiration porn.
No, no. They're okay. I'll get back to
No
that
worries,
in
that
a
was a
minute.
lot that I just threw
No,
at you.
no. Oh, no, no. The inspiration porn part.
We could do that one all day, no
No, no.
problem.
Yeah, yeah. So from being honestly on top of the world from a career perspective for me, and then feeling like I had achieved all of this. And I even had brain surgeries and I recovered from that 10 years prior, and I felt like I was cured. I was on top of the world, like, wow, I overcame this and check this out. Guess what I can do? And then to have this horrible headache and to lose my body and then all of a sudden feel like I had no control over anything, to feel like I have no idea what the hell is going to happen. I don't know whether I'm going to be stuck in this bed. I can't get up and walk. I can't sit up for extended periods of time. At first the pain was so bad, I can't even remember the entirety of that 3 weeks that I was, at the first hospital. I was in the ICU for 10 days. It was I've interviewed or been interviewed by other, OT patients and stuff, and they have said, so what's it like? How'd you deal? And I said, I'm going to be honest with you. It was not easy. It was a shit show at the time. It's still kind of a mind fuck sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it still is. But at the time, it was like, my God, like the wave. It just came over and it just washed the entire beach off, and you were swept away. There was nothing you could do, nothing except try, and then try to do the things that they were asking you to do. Like try to move, try to, do these exercises, try to speak, try to remember, try to, and honestly, that is all I could do. I couldn't, I fought and I was stubborn. And, my mom and my husband were saying, yeah, no, you have to stay in. You have to stay in rehab. Like you've got to be here for like 4 to 6 more weeks. And I'm like, fuck no. Like there's no way. I was like, Mom, I need you to leave the room right now. I need you to leave. Like you can't. And she was laughing. And I'm like, because she was so uncomfortable, right? Like I don't think she was just that tactless. I just think she was uncomfortable. And I'm like, Mom, like you've got to leave. I can't right now. And so, I kicked her out of my room because they're like, you have to stay, you have to do this. And I was like, why? Why can't I just go home and then come into outpatient every day and work my ass off every day? Why can't I do it? And then, of course, it's in hindsight. It's not until after that you realize what they were doing, the strict rules, everything that they, when they said, okay, you can go pee, Judy. We'll take you in by wheelchair and then transfer you over and whatnot. But we're going to keep a hand on you the entire time that you're in there. So those sorts of rules I resented for so long. And I was just like, get me out of here, please. Guys, come drive me to Mexico, bring a wig, like get me out of this hellhole.
Chill break.
And
This is a movie, I swear.
yeah, was, and it was easy. Certain things were so easy to joke about back then because you can, have, yeah, what else are you going to do? Right. It's like, all right, are we going to burrow down and like just hide or just say my life is over? Or are we still going to say that, my mind is still like, well, like it was okay at that point. I was still cracking jokes. I was still so if I was able to make people laugh, I was going to do it because it made me feel better about myself too. And also it, like made life easier for the therapist because usually, like my speech therapist, for instance, said, oh yeah, I get cursed at all the time. And I'm like, I was a gem. It's like she's like, yeah, you absolutely were. You're like, you have no idea. Anyway, I I feel like I've gotten off topic.
No, I know
Um,
what you're saying about
but
humor is so important because,
so
like, I do stuff like that just to make sure they see me as human.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
But
my dad was in and out of hospitals all the time, and you could always find the ICU because the nurses were cracking up.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
he also got the best care because everyone remembered who he was and wanted to be in his room. So I use that as well. Also,
yeah.
singing for supper. Like, if I'm going to be the sick, I have to be entertaining, right? Like,
Well, don't they say that the funniest people, have gone through the
yeah,
hardest things too?
I think it's really true. It's a coping mechanism. I think humor
Hmm.
is the coping mechanism for people who are experiencing things they can't change. If
Yeah.
you're under the control of something that you have no autonomy over, you can't fix, can't make better, the only thing left is humor.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I joke all the time with people who, well, all people who now know too, but people who have worked with me for years, like as outside parties, like auditing us, like the company,
Mhm.
they're like, "This happened to you? We've been working with you for years, and we have no idea, like, or we had no idea." And then I'm like, I'll joke. I'll tell you. I'm like, I'll tell you the miserable stuff. I'll pretend to make you feel bad for me because what else am I gonna get out of it?
I mean,
They start laughing like,
book, apparently. A book is what you got. I had a stroke and all I got was the ability to write this really great book. Here you go.
it was so cathartic. It was so, so cathartic in so many ways.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so many people who are going to experience things or have experienced things, and they're like, I actually do want to write this. I just don't know where to start. Like, you've done a lot of mentoring with people. How would you mentor someone who's experienced something or is experiencing something? They're like, I want to tell my story.
So the way the book started, well, the very beginning origins of the book was like 3 months after the stroke. And I decided I wanted to accomplish a goal. I said, I'm going to tell this stroke to go itself.
Mhm.
And
You can
now,
swear
like,
here. Wait, go ahead and swear.
yeah,
You have to
stroke.
hurt. We get to say
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the
Okay, stroke,
baseline.
fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Go on. And
Get Ben.
so Oh, I've told it already so many times. It already knows.
I feel it.
But so I said I am going to set a goal, and like I'm gonna go run Broad Street in Philadelphia, and that's a 10-mile race. It's one of the bigger races in Philly, or actually one of the biggest races in Philly. It brings in people from all over, and I said, what better thing to do than to run for 10 miles when I couldn't even walk? Let's do this. And so then, of course, it doesn't happen because I asked my doctor, or rather, he said to me, don't you think it would be a good idea to ask your doctor what he thinks about, whether you're going to do this or not? And I was just like, no. And I was like, oh, wait, doc, do you think I can do this? And he said, I don't think it's the best idea. Not because of the 10 miles. He's like, I'm sure you could run 10 miles. Like once I started running, right? But he was like, it's the training involved and, your blood pressure going up and down that I think that would be an issue. So I'm like, okay. But what I had tried to do, or when I first started making this decision, I said, I'm writing a blog. I need to write down my feelings somewhere. And so that was the start of it. And that was so Puglet. And
Sorry,
that was
distraction, but she was making a lot of
no,
noise.
no, no. It's okay. Tuck is back on the sofa now because he's like, Mom's not paying attention to me at all. So I'll have to bribe him with treats later. So yeah, I started with the blog. And I think so when I try to transfer that over to someone to say, hey, this is my advice for you, then I'd absolutely say write it down, record as much as you can because the first picture I have, for instance, was like 10 days in, and and there was a therapy dog in my hospital room, and that's why I was like, oh, can you take a picture of me with the dog? Like I do want to remember this sort of thing. And not even knowing how long it was going to survive, how far it was going to make it, etc. But I was like, here, take a picture of me. Or when I had slow speech, if I'm too tired, if I couldn't, if my speech slowed down, like really, really, really slow, and I would record myself on a voice note. And I would say, I need to know what this actually looks like to the outside world because I need to know for myself. I wanted to know, I had video of when I wasn't walking right or when I was trying to walk right. And, either that to begin with, the evidence of it all has been great. It's been such a marker for me that I can go back and, like look at. In terms of the writing, I mean, strokes are so isolating and chronic illness is so isolating. And so if you don't write it down, or if you haven't found your community, I feel like I'm just finding mine now, then who else do you have to talk to about it? You really don't. It's like, okay, now there's internet, but even with the internet, people aren't going to be like, they're not announcing that, ooh, they thought their left arm wasn't part of their body and they wet the bed. They're not really going to announce that sort of
Strangely, I
thing.
haven't seen that thread yet.
Yeah. So, without that community, where else, what else do you have? So my recommendation is find your outlet. Um, any outlet that you can, like you've made it to the other side in terms of you've survived, you started gaining things back. If whatever you have left, your consciousness, your intelligence, your thoughts, whatever, put them down because you'll actually love to read it later. Now, for me, it's also sometimes upsetting later, but it also is like, wow, if I didn't write it down, I wouldn't be able to look back on it and say, hey, guess what? I overcame this because I am so driven that I would push and say, I used to not be able to cross the street and, or like I would have to wait for the signals to turn, like 2 cycles of them before I would move on because that was the safe thing to do. And those were the things that you had to learn. You had to learn how to function out in the real world. And if you just say, "Oh, go, go, go. I want to get better. I want to get better. I want to go back to work," then you can so easily forget about everything else that you've been able to get back. Right. So, that is that is what I recommend. I mean, share your feelings if you're up for it. Absolutely. Talk to the people you can talk to. Ask if the hospital has, any resources for you. At the time, um, I spoke with a neuropsychologist who, like we talked a little bit, but we ended up talking more about like my regular life therapy than we did, stroke therapy. And there it turns out when I was part of the Patient Family Advocacy Council, I had found out. So it wasn't until afterwards that I found out that they do have people who are specialized in this. Let me help you walk through your stroke care. And yeah, so I mean, like just try to find like for stroke patients, try to find the support. But then for writers or people who want to write and share your story, absolutely just put down as much material as you can. And then you can sift through it and decide what you want to do later because it's overwhelming, right? To decide, okay, well, this for me, it was, yeah, I'm sharing my story, but what is it about the story? Like,
Mm.
is it just I kicked ass at therapy and guess what? I was able to get all this back. And so let me tell you all about it. It's not, it didn't necessarily start that way. So, and the other thing I should say is that, and I should probably wrap this up, I think, without you saying, because I could go on forever. So, one of the things that they teach you after stroke is to set a goal, but to break it down into sub goals, and then to break those sub goals down to slithers of sub goal and keep doing it, keep breaking it down. And then when you accomplish something, like the fraction of whatever it is, check it off. Write it down, check it off. Say, I did this, and I did this. And you can look back at it and say, hey, guess what? I did do this. And putting it in smaller chunks instead of the big chunks give you the ability to feel like you had progress. Because if you don't, and you just say like, well, my goal was to write a book. And if it doesn't happen for 2 years, then it doesn't, you're like stuck for 2 years. Like, hey, but yeah, it's like when they say baby steps, it's baby steps, but then it is also, I am learning a lot of this myself in that it wasn't until this whole process that I have learned what the possibilities are. It is like the world just like split wide open and the possibilities are like, oh wow, you mean you can go to Vegas and do an interview, like, or you could like, you could be interviewed or you could you know and do all these amazing things and meet all these people that you never would have met before, that and met a community where there are people who can make you feel like you're not that alone. You also have people who have had similar strokes or go through the same body aches, or, like, well, you didn't experience this, but when the snow hit here in Philly, like, are my joints and muscles aching all over the place? Do I feel like I was hit by a truck? Yeah, absolutely. But now I have people to talk to. And that is such an amazing feeling because you don't have to feel alone. So if you want to write a book, absolutely do it. Do it. Do it so that other people can experience it too. So that you can, I've heard so many times now, I've set an example for people who
Mm.
want to do it and that they can see that now they can do it. And honestly, yeah, if I can do it, you can do it. So,
Talk to me about the art therapy because even if you're someone who has had something, you're like, I am not a writer, but I do want to get across what I'm going through.
mhm.
Doodle sketches embroidery, interpretive dance, talking to a recording software. Like there's so many ways. Like we're talking about storytelling, and storytelling can be anything
It
from making
can, yeah.
music to writing. And you got to go through art therapy. What were some of the lessons you got from art therapy?
Wow. Sorry. I
You're all good.
don't know what happened there. Okay.
The chaos of the universe. That's what happens.
All right. I know, right? Tech and I do not get along. So the art therapy. So to start, I will say, and I kind of alluded to this before, I was go, 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 right? Just constantly go, 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 work, 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 work. And I don't want to waste time. I don't want to spend it on things that I think are pointless. Now, TV shows, that doesn't necessarily count, right? I mean, like if you want to binge something, binge it.
I'm quite the middle.
Okay.
If I
But
say marathon, it is never running. It is always on Netflix. If you see me running, you better start too because there's something very wrong.
so
There's a
so
dinosaur or zombies, but I do not run for no reason.
I was dying,
Sorry.
dying, dying, literally and figuratively. In rehab, I get so claustrophobic. I do not like being out of control. So, all those stereotypes of not oh, it's the not being able to escape thing. And I was not allowed to leave the hospital. So that was like probably one of the biggest, hardest parts for me. And so when you're not in therapy, you're in your room alone, or if you have family, friends that come visit, then awesome. But most of the time, especially when Hubs is at work, you can't exactly expect him to be there all the time. Then you're by yourself, not really wanting to watch TV. Maybe at the most, I was like on Facebook or like, on the cell phone and surfing. But because you're alone, art therapy saved me.
Mm.
Art therapy, I'm generally creative here and there, love music, love, like making things, but I was never necessarily good at it, or I kind of just thought this would kind of be like a waste of time. Like for me, being a corporate nerd, right? And they would give you adult coloring books, and I would be like, coloring books, really? But then when I started to do it, I said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You can focus on something. It's like it doesn't really require a ton of thought, and you've actually made something pretty by the time you're done. And then in art therapy, also, it taught me that, I was painting, and normally I'm a perfectionist, and this allowed me to say mistakes are okay, and mistakes are beautiful. They can actually turn out wonderfully. And it's like, okay, so you don't have to try to be perfect all the time. You don't have to, think that your time has to be so regimented that you can't go fun or explore or try this. Like I was taking a paintbrush and I was just like flicking flecks of paint onto it randomly. It's just and I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm making. I'm just making this. It was, no direction, no necessary, no, ugh, no necessary thoughts, and, vision. And then, until later, until the wave thing. It's actually behind me right there. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
But yeah, these things teach you that you can simplify things and break them down. Um, that was one of the biggest things, to slow it down, to cherish the time. And then, you know what? Like, there's no set way of doing things, and you don't need to be classically perfect. It's living, and then more of living in the moment. And that's where the joy ends up coming in.
Art is as I'm an artist, that's actually my job, and it's so upsetting to see everyone going towards generative AI because it's the product is not the point. The point is the process.
Yeah.
And the point is learning how to take what's in your mind and express it to others. And that journey of constantly trying to go from the internal to the external and back again, that's almost like that journey of like the hero to the underworld of like going to like the people and then going deep inside to gather everything, then bring it back out again over and over and over again. That's the actual point of art. Yeah, sorry, the generative AI thing drives me insane in every like
No, no, you're good. You're good. I just sorry.
I have one in an
I
hour
feel
and
like
I
the light
wanted
just went out.
oh yeah, it did get very bright there. It was like, the whole halo.
Oh, it actually got really dark and then I got bright because I did this. Okay. Sorry about that. I think that's
No
better.
worries.
I think this is back to where we were before.
We're closing in on an hour, and I have one
Yeah,
question.
no, we
Thanks
are.
to Tim Ferriss that I always ask everyone. It's my favorite question, and it's if you have one purchase that's under $100, what is it that was actually worth it for you?
Yes. So, my more recent obsession, now I've been doing it for a while now, but I've been truly wearing everything more often, but it's been the crystal jewelry.
It's so pretty.
Thank you. Thank you. This one I got at a holiday market at the Grand Central Terminal. Her name is Annie Zhang. Everybody go look her up. She's amazing.
Yes, it's beautiful jewelry.
And then, like, I found this other person on Etsy who allows you to just put your stone in this kind of mesh thing that so you can change it out and you can, like,
Nice.
depending
Yeah,
on,
it's like a
what you're
basket,
needing
like a
for the day.
silver basket.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah, it's crystals and crystal jewelry. I, definitely a good buy.
it is. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
If we were not closing on an hour, I'd ask you more about what jewelry means to you, but we're closing, and
Oh, well,
we will need to save
I
that for
can
another chat.
email you or send it to you or
And my
yeah,
other job in
absolutely.
life before I got sick was a jeweler. I used to be a jeweler. I'm GIA certified. I've had a weird life. I
It's
cannot
very
thank you enough for
creative
covering
though.
everything I've done has been in the field of storytelling or create. Even when I was working in Silicon Valley, I was a photographer over there. So it's always been something storytelling. Yeah.
That's
Um,
awesome. Well, everyone is lucky. Everyone's really lucky and I am super lucky that you have those talents and gifts and that really
storytelling.
can yeah. Yeah.
As we're talking about like everything of going that was what interested me so much about your story is that starting over because if you're chronically ill you're always starting over no matter which place you get to on the I swear I'll get to walking, I swear I'll get to standing, I swear I'll get to sitting up, most likely than not you're going to end up back down to ground zero. You're going to have to keep starting over again. And that's what really interested me about your story was like talking to someone who went all the way back to ground zero to start over again. And I'm always interested in what it takes people to keep moving forward. So your book is so important. I am really hoping if you are listening to this on the road, it's okay. Just when you get to somewhere where you can type safely, go to invisiblenotbroken.com. I will have a link to the book right there. You can just purchase the book right from our show notes. And Judy, I'm so happy to have had you on. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone, have a great day. Be kind, be gentle, and whatever it looks like to you, be fierce. If you're in the United States with us, being fierce is no longer optional. Be fierce in whatever way you can. Being disabled is obviously a very political thing. So call, write, comment, do whatever you can. We are going to be doing more episodes this year, so wish me luck. 2 a month, we can do it. Woohoo! And if not, it'll be funny. So I will see you guys hopefully in the next few days. And please make sure you comment, like, share. I don't advertise. So if you've heard of us, it's because someone told you. So be kind and do that to us too.